Hello, Kickstart community. My name is Lauren, and I am so excited you are here. Why is the 48-hour detox so powerful? I'm so excited to introduce our guest for today in the Kickstart community. As you guys come in, please say hello, whether you're watching live or the replay. Let us know where you're tuning in from. This is going to be a good one. I'm so excited to learn along with you and introduce today's guest. We are so lucky. For nearly 20 years, as a researcher of new discoveries in health, nutrition, dieting, toxicity, and the immune system, Peter Greenlaw of the Greenlaw Report has been sharing discoveries through his co-authored best-selling books, Why Diets Are Failing Us, the TDOS Syndrome, TDOS Solutions, and Your Third Brain. Peter is widely recognized, you guys. He is known as the researcher of researchers. Aside from his books, he has been sharing discoveries through more than 1,500 lectures around the world. He has been a featured speaker at many conferences, and he has been featured on major networks from coast to coast. We are so excited to have him here today. Please welcome researcher and author Peter Greenlaw. Peter, I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's really my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about sharing this knowledge that I've really acquired from some of the leading minds in medicine and oncology and molecular biology and genetics. So it's their research that I'm going to state today. It's not my opinion. That's why they call me the researcher of the researchers. And let's clarify, I'm not claiming to be the expert, but I became an expert on the experts. And what I'm going to share with you today is what they taught me. Amazing things that can really change people's lives once you understand. And I'm a science nerd. I always say, look, science has no emotions. It just is. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't, So I'm real excited to share with the audience today what I've learned.
Well, we are just so excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So let's get into it. Why does detoxing matter? Why does it even, why does it matter if I'm totally new to this whole thing? I've never heard of it. Why should I do it? And what happens if I don't?
So I've discovered a new medical syndrome. It's recognized by the U.S. Patent Office. It's a registered trademark. The TDOS syndrome, you referenced one of my books. It stands for toxicity, nutritional deficiency, being overweight and stress. Oh yeah, there's the book. And that is a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. It's a really big deal. So here's what we know that we didn't know when I started 20 years ago, that now the American Society of Endocrinologists, those that deal with our hormones, et cetera, have absolutely identified the herbicides and the pesticides and the Scotchgard and Teflon and flame retardants. They call them obesogens. And as we breathe and we drink and we eat them and we put them on our skin and we brush our teeth and wash our hair with these chemicals, the body, as it comes in, the immune system can't deal with it. So what it does, it takes the chemical and stuffs it in a fat cell. And my first book, which I proved the enemy was not calories, and the whole notion of calories in, calories out has been completely debunked, by the way. Yeah, that book right there, where I proved that the enemy was not calories, it was toxins. And of course, now there's been more than 1,000 research studies. One of the most shocking ones that came out in the last 12 months, they're now saying that all of us on this call and everybody we're all eating, in North America, we're eating the equivalent of 1 credit card per week in plastic. If that wasn't bad enough, the thing that makes plastic pliable, they're called phthalates, those are a major contributing factor to raising estrogen in women. And also from 1973 to the year 2000, the sperm count in men in North America has decreased by 50%, 50. So I'd say it's a pretty serious problem that was only really discovered back in 2006 by Mount Sinai Medical School in New York. So why should you care? Because there was a study done on newborn infants about 8 years ago. And every baby they tested, looking at their cord blood, was coming in the world with an average of almost 300 toxic chemicals at birth. So can you imagine how toxic we are? And the problem with dieting, or the whole diet industry, is they're trying to take a round peg and they get bigger hammers trying to slam it into a square hole. And when you really look at the research now, it's going to prove that dieting is the worst thing you could ever do, because you lose the wrong kind of weight. You lose lean muscle mass, you lose water, and you literally slow our metabolism down. And the average weight loss, I just did this research a month ago on like the top 10 diets. When I looked at them after 26 weeks, their published studies, which by the way, weren't peer reviewed. None of them have peer reviewed studies. The average weight loss was a half a pound a week or 13 pounds after 26 weeks. So obviously something's terribly wrong. So the TDOS syndrome, every living, breathing person in the world has it. Toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, causing us to be overweight and stress. And even for those people that are thin, that are on this call, that are athletes, lest you think you're not toxic, well, there's a huge study that was done, and it was called Just Because You're Thin Doesn't Mean You're Healthy. And what they did, they took really fit people and they did MRIs on their brain, their kidney, their liver, their lungs, and around all those organs, they saw this white halo of this toxic fat called the body's toxic burden. Well, I don't know if you all know this, but we have you guys are using a fulfillment company that has the only peer-reviewed studies that have ever proven that this is removing the toxins from these. There's two kinds of fat cells, the outer layer of fat that's called adipose, that's your jiggly fat, and the hard fat underneath that's called visceral. And the visceral is what's all around our organs. And especially in men, it's almost like deadly fat. When it gets too great, it can actually cause heart attacks and all kinds of things. But that's where the toxins want to lie, which makes sense. They're getting closer and closer to the organs. And what you have here is clinical proof that this is removing the toxins from the body. It's lowering inflammation. And to be technically correct, what happens when a fat cells enter the body, think of a fat cell like a balloon. So it goes inside the balloon and the fat cell blows up. That's why we're getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And that's why I tell people all the time, the scale on this is for vanity, but the measurements, measure from your neck and your chest and your abdomen and your stomach and your waist and your thighs, all the way down. You will see those inches go down as your body literally shrinks away this visceral fat. You know, it's funny. I had people tell me, well, of course, a pound of muscle weighs more than a pound of fat. No, it doesn't. It can't. I mean, that's science. I mean, a pound of muscle and a pound of fat weigh the same, but fat takes up 10 times the volume in the body, as does muscle, which gets us to, okay, the topic of today. Why is it 48 hours? And again, I'm just going to give you the science. It doesn't have an opinion, okay? So I want to introduce you to a couple of new terms. Okay, so we know 90% of the people in North America are suffering from something that's called metabolic inflexibility, and mostly caused, believe it or not, by the TDOS syndrome. What does it mean? It means that the only thing we're burning for fuel are simple carbohydrates and sugars. The human body stores about 2,000 calories a day in simple sugars and carbohydrates. Lauren, you want to take a guess? Unmute yourself. Take a guess how many calories we store in fat on a daily basis. Just take a wild guess.
You're going to do this to me live?
Yep, of course. Thanks for volunteering. But listen, thanks. And I wouldn't expect you to know the answer. I didn't know the answer, okay? But just take a wild guess. So 2,000 calories in sugar and simple carbs, and in fat, how much do you think we store?
I think we store 1,200 calories.
100,000. 50 times more. The human body was meant to burn fat, and that is called metabolic flexibility. And when you are detoxing, when you're doing the 48 hours, what really happens in the first 22 hours. Now, this would be true if you did a water fast, a fast, or a really low calorie, whatever. The body, here's how it works. It takes about 22 hours for the body to burn through the sugar stored in our liver. That's called glycogen. That's our emergency stores, okay? But the problem is on a fast, or they call intermittent fasting, or all these things, because they're nutritionally bankrupt, when the body at about 22 hours runs out of the sugar, it only has two things left for fuel. My right hand is muscle and my left hand is fat. And proven in the scientific studies that on fasts or these low calorie diets, when it comes to that choice point, it ignores the fat and it burns the muscle. And therein lies the downfall of all diets. As you lose lean muscle mass, you slow your metabolism down. So you go back after a diet and start eating normally, you gain that's the yo-yo. That's exactly what's happening, okay? So on this, and technically, and shameless plug for me, I own the trademark of intermittent nutritional fasting, because that's really what you're doing. You're doing fasting that's nutritionally supported. Now I need to give you another new term, nutritional partitioning, okay? Wow, that's a fancy word, but it's real simple. So when you're doing your shakes before you go in to, hopefully after this talk, your 48-hour detox, okay? What happens is your body, because of the nutrients in the shakes and the snacks and everything else, you're storing up like in a warehouse, okay? And so what happens, in order for the body to detox, you've got to basically suspend your digestive tract. So shockingly, last night when we all slept, we detoxed as long as we didn't eat too late. So if you eat at like 10 o'clock at night, the first 3 or 4 hours when you're sleeping, you're digesting your food still, you won't turn on the detox mechanism. So last night we all detoxed, we replenished, revitalized, et cetera, okay? That's why one of the best strategies in life is to have one of your shakes an hour or two before you go to bed, so you're giving your body those nutrients that it will use to repair, rejuvenate, revitalize, and more importantly, allow the detox to go on. But how do you do it when you're sleeping? Because it's real simple. You've got to suspend your digestive tract. So let's say under, just use calories as a measurement, about 400 calories. Once you get down there, your body will turn on the mechanism. But the problem with that is, unless you have the nutritional partitioning with a backup plan for the elements or the nutrients, along with, see, you got to understand, when you're doing your cleanse for life and your snacks and all, you're getting not calories, you're getting massive amounts of nutrition. So what happens when you come to that 22-hour point on this, the body goes, well, wait a minute, I got muscle and I got fat. Well, I don't need to burn muscle because I've got all this stored. Now we'll burn the fat. Proven in the clinical studies, by the way. This isn't like hyperbole on my part. This is absolutely proven. So at that 22-hour mark, your body begins to switch from what? Metabolic inflexibility to what? Metabolic flexibility, where now your body begins to burn the very fat in which the chemicals are stored. Again, proven in the clinical studies. I don't know how many of you knew this. You see, you've got the most unique, solution to the biggest problem facing mankind since the dawn of time. You know what it's called? Obesity. And I'm not making a medical claim. We now know, based on the COVID numbers, et cetera, obesity is a horrible, horrible thing. And people keep going on diets. And after 26 weeks, they lose 13 pounds. So if you got 30, 40 pounds to lose, it's going to take you 80 weeks to lose it if you could stay on a diet for 80 weeks. We're here a lot of times in the first 4 days, assuming you did like 2 shake days, which you guys call shake days, and 2 detox days, typically on the 5th morning, because that's all I've ever taught people really is to do a 48-hour. I have to warn them, your scale's not broken. You just think it is, because many people have safely lost weight to the point where they think their scale, no, this is a placebo. It can't be, it must be water weight. But yet the clinical evidence proves it's not water weight. It's not lean muscle. But you have to understand, at that 22-hour mark on any of these other protocols, you're out of fuel. And when your body is in starvation mode, survival mode, it will never burn fat. It will burn muscle. That's what anorexia is. So Karen Carpenter, you're probably too young to even know who she was. She died of anorexia once her body ate through all the fat and then the muscle. Then it started to eat her organs, in particular her heart. She died of a heart attack. It's called catabolic metabolism. So this is not, and look, if someone wants to do a fast for 22 or 3 hours, great, but stop. Don't go any farther. Because at that point, based on the evidence, you're going to start to burn your lean muscle because you have no fuel. So think of it this way. The first 22 hours, you are literally preparing the mechanism, the detox mechanism in your body to begin. You're getting all the workers ready. They got the machines going. They plug the electricity in. At 22 hours, boom, we turn the switch on and we start to go into metabolic flexibility. And that's also, let me explain another thing, okay? In our brain, we have these, well, there's a bunch of neurotransmitters, but the 2 primary ones, one is called serotonin and the other is called dopamine, okay? So serotonin is, especially for women, it's what gives you the feeling that everything's okay. It's kind of the happy, thing. Then dopamine is the pleasure neurotransmitter. It gives us the ability to concentrate and strength. And we now know that, for example, ADD and things like that are caused by what? Low levels of dopamine, okay? Now, but because dopamine is the pleasure center in the brain, unfortunately, every addiction known to man stimulates dopamine. So whether it's crack cocaine or marijuana or alcohol or heroin, it's overstimulating the brain. So what the brain does, see, the body produces this pleasurable feeling from eating or unfortunately taking a drug. And then the brain has these receptor sites. So if you look at my right hand, the dopamine is produced, it goes in, it's like it plugs in, and we feel really good. And then the body, after a period of time, it takes it back because you can't be happy, happy, happy all the time. That's called manic, okay? So manic depression, they go from being high to being low as their dopamine crashes. Like, you know, alcoholism, the alcoholic actually has a gene that produces dopamine. That's why they say a happy drunk. And then when they crash, they're miserable, okay? Now, what happens, believe it or not, sugar, Harvard Medical School, not Peter Greenland's opinion, is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. One of the reasons you'll find after 24 hours, the next morning, we have a lot of people that say, wait a minute, I've lost all my cravings. I was drinking coffee. I was eating chocolate. Well, here's what happens. So sugar, just like any of those other drugs, stimulates these receptor sites. But when we get overstimulated, the body reacts. And what does it do? It begins to shut them down. So now, where it took 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar, now it takes 3 or 4. The same thing with drugs. That's the addictive process of the brain. But here's what's so cool. You suspend that digestive tract and that sugar for the first 22 hours, moving into that second 24 hours, those receptor sites begin to basically open again. So now when you have that shake in the morning, it's probably the best tasting thing you've ever had in your life because it took so little carbohydrate to give you this peaceful, full, satisfied feeling. And then people report unbelievable amounts of energy, you know, et cetera. So to review, the first 22 hours, you're setting the machinery up to get it to run to begin the detox process, which is essentially to convert you from metabolic inflexibility, burning sugar and simple carbohydrates, to doing what? To burning fat, which is what we're meant to be. See, sugar and carbs are energy sources. If you're going to run 100 yards or swim 100 yards, yeah, you're going to burn sugar temporarily. But you got to understand that the energy in the body, which is called ATP, it's a fancy name, but just trust me, it's the energy source, that fat produces 10 times the long-term energy of sugar. And think about it if you've ever done that. So people, you know, they eat carbohydrates and for an hour later, they're starving to death because they got the initial burst of energy, but it was not sustainable. It wasn't long-term. So then when you're in metabolic inflexibility, what do you crave? So people go to the gym and then they go to Einstein's and have a bagel with cream cheese. No, 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 no. But that's what happens because we've been so, I wouldn't even say misguided. I would say that the science now has kind of caught up. And now we realize that in the studies, there's a big study out of UCLA and another one on the University of Minnesota. And they basically said there is no way that dieting works in the long run. Because think about it. Here's another part, and this will make, I know we got some athletes and they're going to get mad when I tell them this, but here's the reality. The dumbest thing ever is diet and exercise because we're asking, wait a minute, now watch this. We're lowering the caloric intake, which is any diet out there, right? But they've never talked about the fact you're also lowering the nutrition. And then you're asking your body to produce more effort with no fuel. Well, guess what? It's proven that exercise is not a weight loss strategy for that very reason. And every diet out there, none of them talk about nutritional density, but that's what you all have. See, our food today is calorically dense and nutritionally bankrupt. And the TDOS syndrome, the biggest factor in TDOS is the D for deficiency. Like, for example, just so you know, in organic food, and I'm not against organic or whatever, but in the studies, 200 studies, they proved that organic nutritionally was not a lot different than regular food because what was it missing? The minerals. And you're going to get about 15 to 20 minerals based on studies versus in us. And what you're taking, you have 60 to 70 minerals. Well, wait a minute. How are you expecting your body to work on 20% of what it needs? I mean, it just makes no sense. So what do? Now we need Red Bull and Starbucks and, you know, coffee and cream cheese and bagels and whatever it is. But we're fueling our body basically with dirty fuel. And so the food manufacturers, what have they figured out? It's so much cheaper to put simple carbohydrates and sugar into our food than nutrition. You know, I laugh when people tell me, they say, wow, you know, this is like really expensive. And I go, really? So let me give you an example. So right now, let's just say gasoline is $3 a gallon. And down the street, they're selling it for $5 a gallon. And you pull in there and go, what are you guys crazy? So well, you got to understand the $3 gallon, you're going to get 20 miles to the gallon. The $5, you get 100 miles to the gallon. So which is the better value? And of course, the key here is the fewer calories, just a calorie, which means, by the way, the body can't count calories, doesn't give a damn about a calorie, only cares about nutrients. But those calories, the fewer you have taking in, the more efficient your body, the less waste. Just like in a car, the less carbon. So if your car could get 100 miles to the gallon, you'd produce a lot less pollution. And the same thing happens, you know, with human physiology. I'm sorry to get off on such a tangent, but I get so excited about this because it's so important that you all understand. Number one, you're not on a diet. You're not on a diet. And believe it or not, you're not on a cleanse, okay? I mean, you know, the problem is when people hear cleanse, what do they think? You're going to spend all day in the bathroom. Well, no, it literally is intermittent fasting, nutritionally supported. You're so lucky. And all I wanted to do was give you the scientific understanding that you can do one day. I'm not opposed to it, but understand the real magic. You're not going to turn that, the machinery is not turned on until you go into that second 24 hours. As a matter of fact, there's a condition that happens in the body also when we sleep called autophagy, which simply means the body at that point when we're asleep, it cleans out the dead cells. That's what that means. So we're detoxing, we're revitalizing, we're replenishing, we're restoring. See, people look at this the wrong way. I get nuts when people tell me, well, of course, if you lower calories, you're going to lose weight. Completely wrong. Debunked. No, not in a billion years. Okay. The science doesn't support that anymore. Calories in, calories out. It's like, you know, I'm sure in Phoenix, you could find a rotary telephone, but please show me how to text on the damn thing. I'm still trying to figure that out. So what's happened is that the science has backed up what, you know, your company was created more than 20 years ago, but they didn't really understand. We didn't have the science to prove now what's really going on. You know, and weight loss is exciting. That's why I say the scale's for vanity, but the inches are for science. And you try to do this with regular food, you're just going to go into starvation mode. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes sense, Peter, because you've been writing about this for so long in your books, and I've gotten the pleasure to watch your interviews. If you haven't, Google Peter, watch his ABC interview, check out some of the things that he's talking about if you want to hear even more, just proof and research in nutrients over calories and why that is so much more important that our food is nutritionally dense. And also just how you speak on vitamins and minerals and how we need minerals and how important all of those things are. It's just further proof.
Well,
So
remember, it's not me. It's the people that you know, they taught me all this. I mean, when I started 20 years ago, to be quite honest, I didn't even know what a calorie was. You know, I could spell it, but that was about it. But, you know, as I began to learn and I realized, you know, I had a personal experience. I'm not going to share it with everybody, but it was life-changing for me, is part of what motivated me to become this mad researcher that I have. And then I was fortunate enough to just kind of be in the right place at the right time as the awareness of toxins was just starting to happen. And I mean, it was, you know, the more I learned, the more I was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. And that's why people are having these extraordinary results. You're not on a diet. You're not even on a nutritional program. You're literally doing intermittent nutritional fasting. And the one thing that I would tell you also, this is not a destination. It's a journey. This is a lifestyle. Because if you think, I don't know what part of the country, I know you're in Phoenix. I mean, what day of the week do toxins take off? Are they off on Fridays or do they take Saturday and Sunday off? So we're breathing and drinking the TDOS syndrome every single day. And obviously, shameless plug for me, I would encourage anybody to get my books because it will simply enlighten you. You know, and it's all based on science in layman's terms. We don't mention the name of any companies, but you know what I'm talking about. Because again, as a researcher, I want people to understand it's based on these world experts that I worked with said, go find these elements which just so happen to be in what all of you are taking if you're on this, 30-day kickstart. I mean, that's what you're doing. I would just encourage you. And here's the other part. People are scared of 48 hours. You got to understand, the first day is way harder. The second day is like you were riding up the hill, you're out of breath. The second day, you're coasting down. 99% of the people say, oh my gosh, that second day was so easy. It's up to you. I'm not trying to, I don't want to convince you I don't do that. I don't convince people.
You know what, Peter? There are several posts in this group right now saying exactly what you just said, that the second day was easier. And it's like hard to believe, but post after post, people agree, Peter. So there's proof to what you're saying for sure.
Because again, it took so much energy to go from metabolic inflexibility to get to metabolic flexibility. And again, you turned on these massive energy engines because the machinery got turned on at about 22 hours. So now you're starting to really burn fat. So it's not surprising that you have more energy and it's easier on the second day. So again, it's up to them. They can do whatever they want. It's not going to change my life, but it sure as heck might change theirs. So what other questions, or I'm willing to take questions from the audience, or they want me to shut up or go away, or
No, absolutely.
I've ruined their day or whatever,
No, Peter, that was the what, and you really brought us the why and the understanding behind what's really happening here and why is it easier the second day. So thank you so much. We do have a few questions here. First of all, several people are asking if there's a recording of this. Yes, you can watch the replay here in the group. So we do have a recording for you. This one here, what foods do you recommend during a nutritionally supported?
It's really simple. You must avoid simple carbohydrates and sugar. Think of those as a fire hose. For example, on either your first day or your second day, you take a bite of an English muffin or a piece of toast or bite into an orange. You effectively, it's like you had your charcoal grill in your backyard and you just have water on it, because the minute the body senses, again, it'll go, metabolic inflexibility is way easier than metabolic flexibility. So simple carbs, you want lean proteins, you want complex carbohydrates. You don't want simple carbohydrates. I can't tell you how many people make the mistake. They think the shake days in between the detox days, oh, it doesn't matter if I cheat a little bit. Yes, it does, because you're setting you want your body to remain in metabolic flexibility as long as possible. Now, look, it doesn't mean that, in 2 or 3 months you can't have pizza or whatever. But if you're going to do this and you want extraordinary results, you got to get carbohydrates and simple sugars out of your life, period. Okay. So hopefully that answers that. Next question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not a question, but I did the 24, definitely afraid of the 48, but I'm going to try it. You're inspiring.
Don't get mad at me, but I'm pretty sure that second 24 hours is going to blow your mind. Plus the results. Yeah. The results are insane. They're crazy.
Yeah. Get those results. Do it. In the 30 days, which days do you recommend for the 48-hour intermittent?
Every week, 48 hours. Every week. Not up for debate. 48 hours every week. And depending, look, I've worked with people who weigh 600 pounds. Okay, I have a guy in Denver. He lost 387 pounds, and he did basically 2 days of intermittent nutritional fasting every single week for, a couple of years. And it's unbelievable. I mean, and this is another question. When you get your goal, people ask me, what do I do for maintenance? I'm recommending minimum 1 48-hour intermittent nutritional fast every month or every other week. Because when you do the 48 hours, see, you do 24 hours, you didn't get the experience yet. You didn't get that, like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. My energy, my focus, everything changes, right? Because you never turned the machinery on.
You're answering this question right here, which is our one, and I feel like this is the one everyone really wants to ask.
But again, it's not a cleanse. Please, you're going to make me nuts. Detox.
Our 1 day detox is okay, or should we always do 2 day detox?
They're fine. I mean, people. I'm not going to look. All I'm telling you is the science. I mean, the science is the science. At 22 hours, for example, let's say you do a 1 day and you have a shake, you took out your fire hose and you put the fire out, and you're in metabolic inflexibility again.
Love it. Peter, want to do the 48 hours. What's the benefit for muscle building versus?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, first of all, we know in terms of muscle building, there's something that occurs called protein synthesis. It's a fancy word meaning that the body, it needs one of 20 amino acids. So in your shakes or in any protein, you have 20 amino acids. And so the idea is that by getting the jump, see, one of the things that happens like in the second 48 hours, so think of your cell almost like a garage door opener, okay? And this is where the minerals become so important. So the mineral would be like your garage door opener. And, you know, if any of you have experienced the power outage and try to open your garage door, it's a real son of a gun, right? So what's happening when you're doing your 48 hours is as you begin to remove the toxins from the body, you basically, in simple terms, you allow the cells to become much more receptive to the nutrients. And you've got the mineral that opens the door that lets it in even more. Because look, in athletics, we know that one of the byproducts is lactic acid. Well, the 48 hour will also help with that. See, here's the other thing that I learned, okay? Do you know that 90% of a workout is not the workout? It's the nutrition. That 90% of a workout is the recovery, not the workout itself. And look, I work with some pretty big name, I'm not going to drop the names right now, but some pretty big name trainers, and you know, they were kind of shocked when they did this because, you know, I eat organic and I don't drink and I don't smoke and I work out 7 days a week, and they always tell me, well, I've done protein shakes before, and I go, not like this, you haven't. And then they come back and apologize to me because they're getting results that it's mind-boggling. So that you're upping that protein synthesis, which builds lean muscle. For example, my guy in Denver that lost 387 pounds had no loose skin and no surgery of any kind, despite losing 387 pounds. Do I think it works? And if you buy my first book, you'll see his before and after, and his story is in my book. So, I mean, again, it's like, yeah, in that book. I mean, it's, you know, in the beginning, Lauren, people come up to me, they go, Peter, oh my gosh, you can't believe what happened. I go, I might. Now they come up, they go, Peter, you're not gonna believe what happened. You know what I say? Yeah, I might.
You've seen it, and
I've
you
seen it.
can't,
I've seen it over
undeniable.
20 years, hundreds of thousands of people that have, you know, and you know, whether I'm too dumb to learn something new, I've never not done 48 hours myself or any of the people that are directly associated with me. You know, I guess sometimes they, you know, I'm like maybe militant or a drill sergeant, but there's such a difference between the outcome at the end of 24 hours versus 48, including that dopamine reset of those receptor sites in your brain. That's why the cravings go down. That doesn't happen on a one day, or not to the extent it does in that second 24 hours. You know what I tell Lauren all the time, to tell people, don't do this to lose weight. That's the wrong reason. That's a throw-in. It's really about you know what you really have? I call it, Peterism, what I call it, you have a quality of life system. It's not supplements. It's not nutrients. And it's not a cleanse, okay? Let's be clear about that. But it's a quality of life system. So whether you're an athlete, whether you're 5 years old or you're 90 years old, it's really simple. When you can give your body everything that used to be in food, your body's going to work better. I mean, that's the principle. So what you're doing is you're filling in that D and deficiency in food with what you're supplying with the shakes and the Cleanse for Life and all those other elements. It just simply changes the dynamic from food that's calorie dense to food that's nutritionally dense. That's why it works. Period. That's why you're having these life-changing results. And for the people that have only done 24 hours, I hope you get back to Lauren and let her know you did 48 hours and what the difference was for you.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to be wrong. I actually made a mistake once. I just can't remember what it was. No, I'm kidding.
I love it. Yes, we have a few people in the comments that are on day one of their 48 hours, or like this one here, 24 hours in right now, and suddenly excited for the next 24.
Then I guess it was worth having me on.
Absolutely.
or maybe they'll be cursing me in a few hours. I don't know.
Absolutely. We do have some questions on how many cleanses they can do per month. So do you have suggestion on that? You say 2 per week. Some people have heard, no more than 4 a month. So
okay, so let me tell you one of the other things then. Here's the difference with us. So let's just say that certainly if you start from day one, on the 12th day, we increase the serving sizes by about 50%. Because the problem, if you do back to back with just like, and the other thing we don't do shake, lunch, shake. We don't do that. We do shake, we do lunch, dinner, and a shake. Same number, let's just say for calories for measurement, but you have to understand, now we know that the timing of when we do nutrition is everything moving forward. You're going to see all the research that points this out. So the idea is that on day 12, we double, unheard of on a diet. This is like blasphemy. But the reason we increase the portion size on day 12 is if you didn't, then you could slow down your metabolism. Because think of it, if you've ever built a fire, so you start with a couple little twigs and then you put a branch and then a little bit of a log and a bigger log and a bigger log and you get this fire burning, okay? Well, at the end of 11 days, if you've done, in 11 days, you've done 2 48 hours, okay? You got this furnace going. If you still put twigs on it, the fire will go out. So it really, you want to avoid slowing your metabolism down. You know, and like I said, we've been doing this for, as a matter of fact, we created something called the race to maintenance, which is based on the principle that starting on day 12, that they, on their shake days, they're doubling their quantity. But it's really important, even on the first 11 days, shake, lunch, same number of calories. So let's say it's 600 calories divided into 300 calorie meals. That's really important. And your last meal of the day is always a shake on a shake day. Why? Because you want to supply those nutrients to your body when you're sleeping so that you can create that nutritional partitioning that you're going to be using partly on one of your detox days. So hopefully that's why, like in the case of my guy in Denver, he did back to back for almost 2 years. Every week he did 48 hours, but he had increased serving sizes. So we avoided, slowing down his metabolism. But again, you're still sick. Simple carbs and you still stick to the program. But that's my, so if you're going to do back to back, let's say you got 50, 60 pounds to lose, you want to make sure starting on day 12 that you up your serving size. Okay.
Fascinating, Peter. Thank you so much. This question here, if someone gets hungry near the end of the first 24 hours or near the end of the 48 hours, what can they eat?
Have another snack. Here's one of the best things you can do. Take 1 stalk of celery and chew it. Celery literally burns more calories in your body to get rid of it than it does from taking it, okay? But normally, the other thing you got to understand, those snacks are specifically designed to help balance our blood sugar. Hunger comes when your blood sugar drops, but something else that people don't know. Do you know that 98% of the time when we're hungry, we're actually thirsty? And the body is about 75% water, the brain's about 80% water, and our blood's 92% water. And the point is that if you do have that hunger, what I suggest to my people, the people that I've taught about this, is that the minute that hunger starts, drink like 8 ounces of water. I don't care how much water you've already drank, but normally that will satisfy. Your brain can't differentiate between hunger and thirst. And if you think about it, if your body's mostly water, when you become dehydrated, you'll get this signal of craving, and it's a simple thing, but that's it. But opposed to anything else, try that first. You could do the celery, or more importantly, you could have, another snack. And those are really designed to, another thing I tell people, look, especially on their first 24 hours, at night, be gentle on yourself. If you get hungry, like around dinner time, just go out and maybe just walk around the block. Or for women, I tell them, look, do an Epsom salts bath, go in there and just relax and go to bed early. Because you've got to understand that the detox process takes tremendous amounts of energy in the human body. Just like when we digest food, we use about 70% of the energy in the body to digest food. But when you're detoxing, it's even more, okay? So those are simple little tricks, and try them, but the water thing normally works. I know it sounds too simple, but a lot of these solutions are simple. It's just, you need to have access to it. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to meet these crazy scientists that taught me all this stuff, because I certainly didn't know it 20 years ago.
And we're so thankful that you could bring that knowledge to us. So thank you so much, because We've got so many questions here. I feel like, Peter, we could keep you here all day, all
I'm
night.
here. You do
But
whatever you
you
want to
told
do.
me
You can.
before we started, you told me you were going to surprise some people, and it's definitely happening in the comments. So many people are like, a shake for dinner every night, and they're asking about that and how long
No, they
for
misinterpret
bed.
it. It's shake for dessert. That's what they see. They already misinterpreted.
I love that.
So a shake for breakfast, healthy lunch, healthy dinner, regular healthy food, always your last, you can call it a meal or your dessert is a shake. So I didn't say what many of you doing, shake, lunch, shake. You can do that, that's fine. But I'm telling the optimum. If you want see, I don't go for good, better, or best results. I want extraordinary. I want jaw-dropping results. I mean, things that I want them to think their scale's broken, okay? So but timing, that timing of the nutrition is so much more important than like the amount of calories, et cetera. Because see, diets are about avoidance. They're about lowering calories. But the body doesn't care about a calorie because it can't count a calorie. It doesn't even know what it is. It's a measurement you do in a laboratory. But by sustaining, see, what you want to do is you want to try and keep your glucose level. You don't want it spiking and you don't want it dropping. And that's a mistake. People get up in the morning, they skip breakfast, and then they go all day and they have a big dinner. It's so horrible. I can't even describe it. They can do it. I don't care. I'm not the food police. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And
The
just
last
helping
shake, how long before dinner? I'd say probably, or before you go to sleep, an hour or so probably. Because again, that shake is really so easy on the digestive tract that you're still going to be able to, but you need the nutrients that are in there, rather as opposed to eating bankrupt food before you go to bed. And that's when people have cravings. It's usually late at night. Because guess what? They're out of sugar. Guess what they want? They want a cookie. They want ice cream. They want to get down and have Haagen-Dazs or whatever. And I love Haagen-Dazs, but not when you're detoxing. Not a good idea.
Yeah. This one, should we avoid exercise on detox days? We've got
Great,
an exercise
great,
question.
great, great talk. Okay. So what I recommend, especially during your first 48 hours. Now, if you're diehards, minimum half the time. If you're used to working out for an hour, do 30 minutes and half the intensity. The best thing I would recommend for you on a detox day is just go for a walk. Treadmill, walk around your block, whatever. Now, here's why. The motion of walking stimulates our lymphatic system. And in case you didn't know, that's one of the sort of sewage drainage systems of the human body. But it's worked really with muscle contractions. And they've proven that walking stimulates the motion of the lymphatic system, so it will actually assist versus running. The other thing you can do, this sounds crazy, one of the best things you could ever do on a detox day, if you have one of those little round trampolines, the little ones, just bounce on that baby. Again, you're stimulating the lymphatic system to help drain out all the stuff that you're doing, during a detox. On your and really, I would say during the first, 10 or 11 days, even on your shake days, you kind of ease yourself into it. Because here's the thing, if you over exercise, you're going to slow the detox process down because your body is using, like I said before, tremendous amounts of energy in order to be able to detox. So now you're asking it again to expend more energy. Remember, we got that threshold. We're down around below 400 calories. And even though this is nutrient dense, we want those calories to help our body to do what? Detox us. So hopefully that makes sense to Kendra. I guess that was the question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Several people were asking about exercise, and you gave such great tips and good advice. Peter,
Well,
thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Everyone, they're already asking for a part 2. They love this, so thank you so much. What's next for you? We'd love to support you, so let us know.
Well, really up until COVID 28 months ago, I was lecturing 4 nights a week all over the world, and I haven't been able to do a live performance in person now for more than 2 years. So one of the things that I've been able to do is I'm really concentrating on more research. Like I want, because there is every day there's new emerging research about, okay, like this thing about the pacing of the nutrition. I literally learned this within the last month or so. I didn't know that. And so I want to go deeper and deeper down these avenues because I think everyone, you really have to understand whoever turned you onto this gave you a gift of life. They gave you the only, that I know of, quality of life system that exists on the planet. People throw around the buzzword health and wellness. It's so overused. It's like nutrition. It's way overused. The thing that everyone should concentrate on is, how can I maximize my quality of life potential for the rest of my life? I mean, who wants to be 80 years old in a wheelchair and you can't walk across a room because whatever. And I will say that there is a disease that we all suffer from starting at age 25 called sarcopenia. It's a fancy word, but all it means is you lose about 1% of your lean muscle mass per year at about age 25. If you don't believe me, go into a nursing home and look at people in the 80s and the skin's hanging off their bones. They've lost all their muscle mass because they can't create the protein synthesis, which is how we make muscle, because they didn't have a high quality source of, in particular, amino acids from protein sources over the course of their life. And we've seen it. We've been able to, have people even in their 80s, whatever, that even just get on the shakes and their mobility and everything changes because now they're beginning to build lean muscle mass again. I mean, it's so exciting. And I just wish that everyone would understand this is like nothing that anyone's ever seen before. And that's why the science so fascinates me. And I know there's a lot of people say, well, you don't have to know anything about, et cetera. And I guess I'm in violent disagreement, because I think that we have such a strategic advantage over anything else out there. And believe me, I've researched them all. If there's a diet, A to Z, I've looked at it, because people come to me and they say, brand X. And then I look at it and I go, it's not going to hurt you, but it's like, no, it's ridiculous. It's like a rotary telephone versus an iPhone. I mean, it's not in the same zip code. So for me, it's about doing more research and hoping that I'm going to be able to start to go live again. But if you wanted to have me back, I'm more than happy to do it. My thing is this: I don't want to convince anybody. I don't want to sell anybody. My main job is to make the world aware of what's available. For example, my site, The Green Law Report, completely free. There's no attachments there. There's over 60 articles and about 50 television interviews that I've done that are 3 and 4 minutes with these world-class experts that I've worked with. It's free. You can use it. It's a resource that I want the world to be able to access. Okay. So that's what's next for me.
That's awesome, Peter. I will be sure to pin that link in the chat so they can go visit. And thank you again so much. It's just so fascinating, and I'm just so grateful. There's so many thank yous here in the group. This has been incredible. So just thank you so much for taking the time to be here and truly just to continue on your work of really just transforming lives and quality of lives for people. So thank
And
you.
I can't do it by myself, and actually one last shameless plug for me. I also own another trademark, and I really believe strongly in this. It's called The New Health Conversation. It's under my brand, The Green Law Report. But don't we need it? And guess what? That's what you have. You have The New Health Conversation. And so, again, I want to help people. I want to, it's kind of like my researchers say, a lot of times we publish these academic things and the only people that read it are scientists. So I've kind of brought them out of the shadows and brought it mainstream so that people are able to access what they, you don't want to be a nerd like me. I've read 500 books and spent 10,000 hours of research and flown 2 million miles just on United, learning from these people. But for me not to share it with the world, what a waste. What a shame it is, because there's so many people today, right now, suffering in quiet desperation. Turn your television on. Every other ad's a diet ad. And unfortunately, like my first book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, because they don't work.
Amazing, Peter. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Sure.
being here and just continuing your research. We can't wait to follow along. And of course, I will link his website for you all. And there's so many thank yous in the comments, Peter. Thank you again for being here. And
Happy to
take
do it.
care until next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you, Peter. You guys, that was just so incredible. I know that you guys are just eating this up. So thank you so much, Peter, for just coming and really just giving us the why behind it, and really helping us focus on nutrients over calories. And if you're looking for those really powerful results, I would follow Peter's proven method. And so take what he says to heart. And thank you guys so much for being the best part of the Kickstart community, being here, answering your questions, seeing your faces. It's just so, so fun that we are all on this journey together. I will see you guys tomorrow. We have another live session, same time, same place, and I will be bringing up Taylor, and she is so excited about this topic. So do not miss how to personalize your nutrition, personalize your shake, get all your questions answered from Taylor. I'll see you guys right here in the Kickstart community tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, stay well. Bye, guys.